Hello.
Hello.
Hello, welcome to the stream. Hello?
Cost stream volume.
Oh yeah, you gotta kill the stream volume so that otherwise you get feedback on yourself. Alright. So I've boosted your audio just a little bit, but I'm gonna go ahead. Is there anything else that I should know about the game before trying it out?
Not too much, honestly. I mean, you just break the connections that form, pretty much. It's really
Alright.
simple, honestly.
Cool. So do you prefer SkyanSam or just Sam?
Skyan Sam. Honestly, any of those are fine. People usually just call me Skyan, so.
Okay, I can go by that as if it is your preferred alias. Okay, so I'll get started with playing the game here, and I'll also ask our first question here, which is, how did you decide on what you're going to make for the jam?
I basically brainstorm ideas. I actually, fortunately, had somebody else to toss ideas with, although they didn't end up working on the game. But, I think I had like 3 ideas. One idea where I was like thinking swing between a pendulum and that would be joined together. And then another idea where it'd be like you connect nodes to illuminate darkness and allow you to see enemies. And there was this idea, which is basically you have objects that spawn and come together and form connections, and you have to break them. So I basically had just a few ideas, and that's how I brainstormed through that.
Nice. Well, I'm
Had a
glad
few
that-
diagrams as well.
Yeah, so do you usually, do you draw stuff out on, pencil and paper, or...
I'll be honest, since I was communicating with somebody else, I just quickly opened MS Paint and just popped it out. I was just like... So...
Oh, I do that all the time.
Yeah.
On the stream, I will do that. I will say, this isn't clear. Let me just quickly whip out MS Paint here, and I will illustrate what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
All right. So, with that being said, I realized, is there a pause function in this game?
No, I probably should add that.
If only so that I can take my eyes off the game for a moment to ask another question. But chat, as always, feel free to post if you have any questions or comments about the game, and I will pass them on to our host here. Dial Dylan's mentioning I still need to get around to playing this. I really like the concept. And Dr. Tronic is saying, yeah, simple but very juicy. Absolutely. With the flashing, the screen shake. Have you seen the Juice It or Lose It video?
Possibly.
I think it was a GDC archive that came up on the
I
stream
didn't see
yesterday.
it. Yeah. I don't think I watched all of it, but I just watched part of it. I could see what they're talking about with that juice.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
All right. So, what was your development process like for this game?
I mean, I pretty much just opened up Unity and started experimenting. I'm pretty sure the first thing I worked on was probably the enemies and getting the enemies to move towards each other, and making a system for that. It was actually pretty complicated because I'm like, oh no, how am I gonna manage all these enemies and connections? But somehow I figured out how to check system for if the enemies were too close and all that stuff. Making classes for like enemy managers and connection managers, and this overall. You can argue it's a bunch of object-oriented programming. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I mean, the enemy instances, is there a manager that is handling the connections between enemies, or do enemies dynamically form the connections between each other?
I'm pretty sure. Basically, what happens is if an enemy is too close to another enemy, I'm pretty sure the enemy requests a connection. If there's no connection, then it automatically adds a connection to the connection manager, and so it just stores that connection. And then if the enemies are too close to each other, then there's a function that destroys the enemies and the connection.
Nice.
Yeah, I detailed a ton of the code in my video, so that's pretty cool.
Excellent. Yeah, that's always very helpful. Okay, so go ahead with our next question then, which is, can you recommend a useful shortcut or a clever hack in the Unity engine that you would recommend to others?
Interesting. That is a very interesting question. Maybe I already know the answer, but then I don't because maybe the hack is like so obvious. Prefabs definitely is probably one of them. Like storing objects in a prefab, so you have to like read everything. That's really convenient. But that's pretty basic. Oh, you can actually add components, and you can actually add components to an object. Like I didn't know this, but if you wanted to, you could like actually construct an object from code instead of making it a prefab. If you wanted to do that.
Yeah, at runtime you can use the add component method to build stuff out.
Yeah.
And you mentioned prefabs. I think one thing that's really fun is that maybe what people aren't necessarily aware of is if you start modifying a prefab at runtime, you will modify every instance of that prefab unless you've instantiated the copies. So if you have a prefab instance and you start creating copies of it, and then if you modify the root prefab, you are modifying every instance of it, not just the instantiated children of it.
Yeah.
Which can be interesting if it's done intentionally. Most of the time it's like, oops, I modified the enemy prefab when it took damage, now every single enemy in the game dies at the same time.
Yeah. What else was I gonna say? Assertions. That's actually a pretty useful hack. You can figure out whether or not the variable is what you want it to be. You can check to make sure like a variable isn't null, and if it is null, that will like pass an error into the console. Unity assertions is useful for that. I'm pretty sure it's like something about running tests. I think that's what assertions are there for. Yeah, tests. Yeah, that type of development. Yeah, so that's a really useful hack to make sure there's stuff. Actually, I'll be honest, there might be a ton of null reference errors like in the console right now. I'm pretty sure. Probably could fix that, but it didn't affect the gameplay, and it's a game jam, so I was just like... So I just avoid fixing it. I'll probably fix it, just in case. Maybe there's like some problem with it that will occur, but I don't know about, so... But there didn't seem to be, so...
Yeah, I mean, as long as you're not building towards like a memory leak or something, and if the game doesn't crash, I mean...
Yeah, memory leaks are not fun.
I guess...
Actually, speaking...
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Speaking of memory leaks, I actually had a recursive function, and I had to make sure that I didn't run that function too many times. It's actually the recursive function for like that determines like where enemies spawn. So I like make sure if the position generated is not close to an enemy or it's not close to the player, then it will use that position. Else it will like run the random function for getting another position again, and it will keep doing this until there's like a position that isn't close to any object in the game. Right. But in the case that there is no position that is like suitable, then it just stops early and then doesn't spawn an enemy. So I have that there just to make sure this doesn't run forever.
Yeah, no, that's a good call. Yeah. I think it's if you're just looking for a valid position, I don't think it's too likely that you're going to fail to find one, given that how large the play space is and how relatively small the instances are within it. But yeah, it's good to have just like a little depth sanity check and then say like, okay, you know what? Something's weird right now. We'll run this for even 100 iterations, and then if that doesn't work, we'll check back in another 100 milliseconds, and maybe something will have changed. Or even a full like real life second. All right. So, do you have any plans for the game going forward?
Probably gonna add a leaderboard. I might add some customization options. There's actually combos that I want to add. Actually, the reason why when you have multiple connections, like 2 or 3 connections in like one thing, there's no combos. It only scores 5 and not 15. And the reason why is because that actually is an accidental bug. Originally, I was planning on having only 2 enemies have a connection. But then I figured, 3 enemies can have a connection and 4 enemies can have a connection. It's actually more fun. And I didn't intend for this to happen, but it happened anyway, and I'm really glad that it did, because it's a really fun feature. Now people can just get combos. So I need to actually make sure that when people get the combos, it actually scores. people get extra points for letting the enemies not only stack connections, but also if the player scores like a connection that is like really like the enemies are about to collide. If the player scores that connection, then they get more points because it was a close call. So
nice. All right. I guess I'm curious. What is your high score in this game?
Probably about 1,000, somewhere around there.
All right.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job on this run.
Yeah, honestly, people have beaten my high score, honestly, at this rate. To be honest, it doesn't get too much fun past a certain score, so I might want to add more to it, I guess.
So a little more intensity, make the game ramp up until eventually you sort of force into a lose condition.
Yeah, literally.
But yeah, I know the feeling. Like my game, my score is like 310, and there's one member of our Discord. There we go, 1050. All right. There's one member of our Discord who's managed to get up to 660. It's like more than double my score, and he posted a full-on like 12-minute or like 20-minute video saying like, here's the run where I got up to like 660 or 670 points. Absolutely crazy.
Wow.
So yeah, it's always fun to see people who are able to play your game at a higher level of competency than you. It just obviously there was some amount of depth or engagement in it that it feels rewarding as the developer, right?
Yeah.
All right. So if anyone has any questions in chat, now is the time to post them. Otherwise, I'll just go ahead and ask. Do you have any other people or projects that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Sure, yeah. Lightspeed 6, he actually made the music for this, so that's really nice. Wayfarer Games actually gave me some feedback to actually make the game. Basically, I actually had a problem where, let me think, where basically I need to communicate to the player when the game was about to be over, right? So Wayfarer Games suggested that, if the enemies are about to collide, I add blinking, and I add post-processing, and I had like vision and all this stuff. And that actually helped it a lot better because, wow, you subconsciously know when the game is about to end, and you have this kind of freaky out moment where you're like, oh no, where's the connection I need to break? So yeah, that's where the blinking originated from. Because I was trying to figure out how to, make it obvious. Who else would I like to shout out? Probably could also shout out a couple of friends, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone you want to shout out to, I could post. If you send me any links, I'll be happy to repost them in chat.
Okay. Let me see. Oh!
Seems like maybe there was an important call that came in at the last second there. But yeah, so I will just take the opportunity to say that up next we're going to be trying another game that was submitted on the Discord by Logix Indie. Pull that up here. Let's see. So here's Lightspeed 6, the individual who created the background music for this game. And I'm not sure if we're going to be hearing back from Skyan.
Nope, I'm here. Hello.
Okay, good. Welcome back.
Hello. Though I don't think there's much for me to say. I think Cam Draws also made some art. I think I used it for the video for the devlog that I made. Specifically for the emoticons, so that's pretty cool.
Nice. All right.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying how one of my friends made some emoticons for the video that I made, the devlog.
Nice. Yes. Dial Dylan is asking, how long was the movement tweak to get the best speed for the gameplay?
Quite a bit. Actually, I'll be honest, I was like being finicky with like all the variables and stuff like that. Like before the deadline, I was like, what if we make the player movement this, and what if we make it this, and just changing it until I found something nice. And I'm like, you know what? It's probably perfect. I'll just submit it. So yeah, I just tweaked it for a bit. I basically tweaked it throughout development, I guess. I didn't really decide on like a set movement at the beginning when making the player. I just tweaked it as I added more features.
Nice. All right. Well, if you have any other projects that you would like to send my way or get feedback on, either now or in the future, I'll be more than happy to take a look at them on stream once again. Or if you just want to chat about a project that is in the works, then yeah, I can see some of your MS Paint drawings here. This is very similar to the kind of thing that I'll pull up and do myself.
Yes.
Good on you for saving them though, because it's always fun to like look back on these simple sketches after the fact.
Yeah.
All right, but yeah, please feel free to submit your projects on the Discord and get the feedback from the other members on there. And yeah, we'll hopefully get a chance to talk again later.
All right, thank you very much. I will let you know when I make this a mobile game, possibly.
Sounds good. All right, have a good evening. Bye-bye.
All right, you too.